Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 9 at Keeneland on Saturday. It's the Grade 3 Benelli. $300,000 is the purse. We're going a mile and 3/16. And let's take a look at this field. Your morning line favorite is the number 4, Kings Barnes, who won last year's Louisiana Derby, ran in the Kentucky Derby as only a 4th-time starter. And then Todd Pletcher gave him a break after he finished a close second in the Pegasus. He sprinted and won off the layoff, and that has to be considered an excellent prep for this.
Yeah, it did look like a pretty good prep for this horse, too. 7 furlongs probably short of what he wants to do. He made a pretty game late run in there to get the job done, and maybe he's now set to move forward. He's still very lightly raced.
And he also has some tactical speed, and that can be very important in a race like this because there doesn't appear to be a ton of speed. We'll throw up our Timeform US pace projector, and we see Kings Barnes just sitting off the number 5, Laughing Boy, who pulled off a 54-1 upset via disqualification last time out in the Excelsior. Laughing Boy probably has one chance to win, and that's go to the front.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they just, since they're going to ship here and run him in this race, I assume that they just send him, see how easy he can get away on the early lead, and then just see what happens. Because at least on paper, and listen, there's a lot going on in this race, and there's some questionable form from some good horses. But on paper, Laughing Boy is pretty tough to make.
The number 8 is Happy American. He has your fastest Timeform US late pace rating. He's hoping his pace projector is completely wrong and that it doesn't favor front runners and that it heats up. Time for Trouble's number 1. He's another horse that likes to rally from the back of the pack, but to me, I think he's a stayer that's really going to appreciate a mile and 3/16. He ran 3rd in the Essex last time out behind War Campaign, who's also in this race. They were both facing First Mission, who I think would be heavily favored in this spot. And Time for Trouble, for a brief instant on the second turn, looked like he was going to be completely outpaced. Bejarano wisely dropped him to the rail, and he was running on at the end.
Yeah, he was. He ran fine in that race, but that's kind of what you've come to expect from Time for Trouble now. I mean, every time they run him on dirt, they switch back and forth from turf to dirt. He seems to handle both surfaces equally well, but every time they run him on dirt, he just shows up and runs a really good race. He's very consistent. He's got a great post here, and I think he's got enough tactical speed to get the right kind of trip in this race, Dan. I mean, I don't love him in here, but I'm not going to be shocked when he runs well.
The number 2 is Surely Furious, and this is a horse who's made most of his bank on the synthetic surfaces. While he's yet to win on dirt, he has placed in a couple of graded stakes races on dirt. He looked really good winning the Dust Commander at Turfway 2 starts back. Last time out in the Kentucky Cup, he was kind of over and behind horses in the stretch, maybe not the most comfortable trip. He wasn't winning with a perfect journey.
Yeah, I don't think he was either. You're right, though. I mean, you can sort of pick apart his form, and you can see that I think 3 graded stakes races he hit the board in last year, routing on the dirt. That being said, I didn't think he had excuses in any of those races. He just wasn't quite good enough to get the job done, and I feel like it could be more of the same for him in here.
Interesting that the number 3, Smile Happy's listed as a new gelding for this race, and maybe that's what it needs to get him back into form because he was a good 2-year-old as a graded stakes winner. He was second in the Risen Star in the Bluegrass at 3. It looked like with that big number victory in the Ali Sheba last year that he was going to be a top handicap horse, and then the wheels fell off. His last race kind of chased a fast pace. The 4th place finisher came back to win the New Orleans Classic with a 101 Beyer speed figure, but he's got to wake up.
Yeah, and you're right. Maybe the gelding will do that. Maybe it has something to do with what's been going on with him, because after that Ali Sheba last year, it just sort of felt like he could be anything. And you have to wonder what happened after that, because he comes back, he doesn't run well in the Foster, and he's gone. And you don't see him again. He's run twice this year, Dan. I don't know if you have a different take on this. He was terrible in both of those races. He didn't do any running either time. I know it was a wet track in the most recent one, but he's handled a wet track before. I don't know, man. He's been bad. He's gelded now, and we know he's better than that. Can he ever get back to form?
He's just been lethargic in his last 2 races, and I just wonder if maybe they get aggressive with him. And they say, let's get this horse up close. When he earned that big fig in the Ali Sheba, he was up close to the pace. I'm not afraid of Laughing Boy. They're going to say, let's go and try to make the top with Smile Happy. But he is going to have to turn it around. And 3-1 to me right now is just a little bit too light based on all the questions surrounding them. Kings Barnes is up next, won the Louisiana Derby, winning his first 3 starts. They were very aggressive with him, running him in the Derby. I like that Todd gave him a break, brought him back at 4 sprinting. Mike mentioned probably shorter than his best. Here is his 7-furlong allowance victory. He got a solid pace to run at. They ran a very fast second quarter mile in this race, 22 flat. And Kings Barnes just shows off his class at the end, grinding this field out.
Yeah, I liked this comeback race for him sprinting. I mean, they kept him within range. You mentioned the pace was pretty solid, but he never got outrun by it. He was only clear at the top of the stretch, and he comes and he closes it down. And I thought he did it under relatively strong handling there. I thought it was a pretty good comeback race for him. He started out with plenty of potential. I know, listen, the Louisiana Derby won over this distance. He had a pretty soft trip in that race. The pace wasn't fast, but I still liked the way that he finished that race off. And then he gets chewed up on the pace in the Derby, going way too fast. Forget about it. His Pegasus, I think, is a little bit of an underrated performance. He lost at a short price that day, but he also another really fast pace that day, and he paid the price. I think this horse is pretty good. This is a good spot for him.
Laughing Boy found a very good spot towards the end of last year when they shipped him to Penn National and he was able to take care of business against stakes horses there. His most recent start, he was completely dismissed in the wagering at 54-1. He went to the lead and he set a legitimate pace. I thought kind of speed held most of the day that day at Aqueduct. You could tell me if I'm wrong there. It looked like he was beaten an upper stretch. Messier ran right by him, but Messier drifted in and Laughing Boy had to alter course to the outside. And then to Laughing Boy's credit, he did stay on well to be second best and was placed first via DQ.
Correct. I mean, that was a big speed track, and he was on the lead in there, and he just couldn't. Messier, by the way, who's a pretty good horse anyway. Listen, he gets the win via DQ. He pays over $100. That was a terrible disqualification. He was never winning that race. And for some reason, they decided to make the change. Good for Laughing Boy, bad for everybody else who actually bet the race. I don't know how you make. I don't know, Dan. Listen, maybe he gets loose in here and he keeps going. Jacobson can be really dangerous, and he has horses ready to go when you least expect it. I just feel like this horse might be in over his head here.
Well, from a class standpoint, he looks to be over his head. If you believe the Timeform US pace projector is okay, maybe he gets to the front, drops a 50, and tries to sprint home at another big price. Archie the Gherkin is up next, and speaking of big prices, he upset this race, a first level allowance, at 16-1. Now, he got a setup in here from off of the pace. The pace was fast, but I did like the way he kind of crept into it on the turn, and he still has enough left to hold off the closer.
Yeah, he's going to dig in here. This is a pretty nice performance. It makes it 2 wins in a row for him on dirt. The other one was a race that was washed off the turf where he also made a run from off the pace to break his maiden. He's just moving way up in class here, Dan. He's going to have to do better.
Third place finisher from the race we're watching came back to win a first level allowance with an 89 Buyers speed figure. Dynamic One is the number 9, and he's got plenty of back class. Mike, he was second in the Wood in 2021. I know that's still a painful beat for you. He was a winner of the Suburban in 2022, but after the Jockey Club Gold Cup that year, he went away for a while, and he's now had 3 races back, and he just doesn't look the same. Maybe stretching back all the way out to a mile and 3/16 what the doctor ordered, but he's a one-run closer that could use some pace help.
Yeah, that's true. It's also worth pointing out that it's 2 years ago now, but he ran great in this race back in 2022 when they shipped him here. He got really unlucky that day, and then his form just immediately picked up after that with 2 really nice wins. I guess at this stage of the game, Dan, now he's 6 years old. He's missed a lot of time. The clock is starting to tick because he did not run well at Gulfstream going the 1-turn mile off the layup, but you just sort of felt like he probably needed that race. Unfortunately for him, his form hasn't picked up at all since then. I really wanted to see more from him in the Challenger last time, and he just never really picked up a run. It was very disappointing.
I guess there's a way to look at the 8 Happy American and say he's a little bit dirtied up. He missed the break in the New Orleans Classic last time out, and that probably just cost him from the start. He had a wet track to deal with in the mine shaft and didn't seem comfortable over it. And then in the Louisiana, he ran into Saudi Crown, and I know Saudi Crown bombed in the Godolphin Mile, but when he's right, he's one of the better older horses in the country. That being said, Happy American has kind of had his chance in these graded stakes races and usually finds 1 or 2 better, probably because of his running style.
Yeah, the running style really works against him. He's got a bit of a losing streak going on the way into this race, and he still show up and run his race for the most part, but it's just hard to win when you're coming from last every week. And I think we talked about the pace projector. I think they might have him as the best late pace in the race. I'm not sure he's the best closer in this field.
War Campaign earned a perfect trip to win over Muddy Going 2 starts back in the Tinsel, just saving ground. The rail opened up and he shot on through to win. And I guess he proved that race wasn't a fluke last time out against the very talented First Mission. Let's watch the Essex, and War Campaign going 1 1/8 miles is going to split horses here. Note the horse down on the inside. That's Time for Trouble, who picks up some pieces belatedly and just finishes behind War Campaign. It was a solid effort for war campaign, Mike. He doesn't have a lot of flash, but more often than not, he shows up with a good effort.
Yeah, true enough. He ended 2023 on a pretty high note there. He seems like a horse who does like a wet track, Dan. So the 97 buyer that he earned winning that stakes race in December, I mean, maybe you want to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but he's good on fast dirt too. I don't think he needs a wet track to be effective. He ran fine last time. It's just, it's another horse in here. Can he win? Yes. What kind of price do you want to take on him? He's 4-1 on the morning line. Is that fair? It might be fair. It's not like this is a great field.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Ben-A-Lie. And Mike, you're going with King's Barnes. He just seems like the most likely winner based on the fact that he has back class, he has top connections, and he has tactical speed.
I'm just going to be honest, Dan. I don't like this race. I don't like anybody in here. And I just don't really want to bet it. And so I'm just not going to pick some wild horse here and put it on top. I'll take King's Barnes. I do think he has the potential to be really good this year as a 4-year for Todd. And I hope he stays on the track.
I have a lot of questions about the shorter priced horses in this race. King's Barnes, one of them. It's kind of a mild sort of nitpick in that he is going to have to stretch out 3 furlongs in only his second start of the year. Who knows what we're going to get from Smile Happy?
Right.
And some of these horses like Dynamic One even run anymore. Maybe just being on the lead at 20-1 is not the bad place to be. And Laughing Boy would have to be that price for me to play him against a group of this quality. 4-3-7-9 for Mike, 5-2-9-1 for me. It's the Ben-A-Lie on another good Saturday afternoon card at Keeneland. Best of luck.